this titled memory units. In our previous class, when we talked about the central processing unit, we talked about the fact that we had three components of the CPU, which was the ALU, the memory unit, and the control unit. And I specifically said that we'll be emphasizing or elaborating more on the memory unit, because that's the second topic for our scheme. Now, what's the memory unit? And the memory unit, basically, you can liken the memory unit to be your brain. Your brain, where informations are being stored. Where information are being stored. In the memory, you have instructions there, you have data there, and you have results there. Memory are in different folds. The unit can store instructions, data, and intermediate results. Like I said, you can liken your memory unit to work or become as your brain. It's very important, just as the human brain is very important, so also the memory unit is very important in the computer. The memory unit encompasses areas in which instructions have been saved, areas in which data have been saved, areas in which information have been saved. We have two types of memory, but I decided to elaborate and say we have four types of memory. The very first one is primary memory, which you all know, called as the RAM. The second is the secondary memory, known as the ROM, which you all know. Then we have the cache memory or the cache memory. A good example is the SRAM, meaning static random access memory. And we have the auxiliary memory that you call your external storages, like your flash drive, your memory cards, your CD, etc. Now, these memories are what we'll be looking at in this topic, but the topic is going to stretch for 2 weeks, so I'll be basically talk about the primary memory. Now, what then is the primary memory? The primary memory is also called the main memory. The primary memory is also called the RAM. Anytime you come across the primary memory, it's usually the working memory of the computer. It means that the computer must be on for the primary memory to function. It therefore means that when the computer is not on, then it is gone. Characteristics of the primary memory or the main memory is that they are semiconductor memories, just like your RAM. Your RAM, it needs electricity to function, but it has a semiconductor or it's made up of a semiconductor device. What does that mean? It means that it can't electrocute you, but it can send current through the computer. That's why it's called a semiconductor. He said it is volatile memory. It means it has every tendency to wipe off and on because it is the working memory of the computer. Now, when power is switched off, the memory is being deleted, or the thing stored in the memory is being deleted. When you talk about the main memory, we have two basic types of the main memory. We have the RAM and the ROM. The RAM and the ROM. Two types, we have the RAM and the ROM. Talk about the RAM, we'll be channeling our angle on the primary and the primary memory. We have two types of primary memory called the static RAM and the dynamic RAM. The static RAM and the dynamic RAM. I know many of you may have wondered, and you never knew that there were types of RAM. Yes, there are some of the RAMs that has to do with the static RAM is likened to be when informations go off when power is being switched off. That is the static RAM. But for the dynamic RAM, it requires a continuous refreshing of the memory. If you see on your screen the two basic type of RAM, you have the static and the dynamic. Where one has to do with both of them are working memories of the computer, but one it needs constant refreshing for informations to be gotten, and the other you need the informations go off even when they seize the light, the information remain. For example, this static RAM, what does this static RAM do? The static RAM, when power goes off, there is a part of information that is still being saved. So it means that it is a semi-volatile memory. It means that information can be saved periodically in the RAM. Information can be saved periodically in the RAM. Have you ever operated your phone and during the course of operating your phone, you switched it off? Now, when you switch off the phone, you put it on again. There are some things that you are working on the phone that it still remains the way it is. What the function or the reason why that is so is as a result of the fact that the information was saved in your static RAM. The information is saved in your static RAM. Were you playing a game and all of a sudden they seize the light? At the point of playing the game, there are sometimes that they were saying save the information. Now, the saving of those information is being saved in your static RAM. The information is being saved in your static RAM. At this point, there is a need for a constant refresh. Are you with me? There is a need for a constant refresh. Now, a static RAM is very, very, very needed in a computer because your computer cannot be on all the time. It can never be on all the time. At some point, the computer would go off. What happens to your information? Your information still needs to be retrieved. So there comes your static RAM. Your static RAM, like I said, your static RAM is your static random access memory. So static random access memory. And looking at the screen, this is how your static RAM is. During our physical class, I'll be bringing the static RAM for you to see. If you notice, static RAM has just been displaying on your screen from different angles. This is an example of a static RAM. Now, what are these characteristics? With these characteristics, you will know and you understand it much better. The static RAM, it has a long data lifetime. Like I said earlier, information can be saved there for a long time. There is no need to refresh. There is no point refreshing. Why? Because the information will remain the way it is. It is faster. It means that you can get information with quick ease. You can liken your static RAM to be your cache memory. Your cache memory, I will emphasize more on cache memory. When you talk about cache memory, have you ever operated your phone and you open some apps? You open some apps, and you minimize and go to the next, minimize and go to the next, minimize and go to the next. Your static RAM enables you, or your cache memory enables you to get that information. Moving ahead forwards, no time, is the dynamic RAM. Looking at the screen, the dynamic RAM is just like your normal RAM. In short, it is likened to be your normal RAM. It's dynamic information. If you want to keep your information, there is need for constant refreshing. It is practically the opposite of a static RAM. Practically the opposite of a static RAM. You can find a static RAM inside a dynamic RAM. Hello, I come again. You can find a static RAM inside a dynamic RAM depending on the manufacturer. Now, how different is a dynamic RAM from a static RAM? A dynamic RAM, informations cannot last for a very long time. Informations cannot last for a very long time. Informations can be gotten lesser compared or slower compared to your static RAM. Another difference between them is that a static RAM is less expensive compared a dynamic RAM is less expensive compared to a static RAM. A dynamic RAM is most paramount on every device. You can use your system with your dynamic RAM without a static RAM. I come again. A dynamic RAM is very important. It can work in your system well and without the presence of a static RAM. So at every intervals, know that your static RAM is very different from the dynamic RAM. In our next class, we will basically be emphasizing more about the the ROM, more about the ROM. But moving away from that, we'll talk about the characteristics of a dynamic RAM. Like I've said earlier, I said it has a short data lifespan, no need to refresh continuously. It is slower, it is used as a RAM, lesser in size, is less expensive and less power consumption. It has less power consumption. It has less power consumption. So take note of these characteristics of the dynamic RAM, because during your exam I will definitely ask you for them. Also, I can decide to ask you for the differences between these two types of RAM. Do you have any question? Don't hesitate to make use of the notes icon. Thanks for watching and have a blissful rest. See you next class.